Hey guys, it's Kevin again, my review for the highly anticipated Netflix prequel, The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. And what the series is essentially about is basically we center on the world of Thraw, but it is years before the events of the first movie. Basically, at this point, the Gelflings are living in harmony, and they also don't think much of the Skeksis. They think that they are just allies and that they're very welcoming creatures. However, we follow these three characters, Rien, Brea, and Dietz, who throughout the show find various reasons as to why the Skeksis have far more sinister motives, and so basically they settle on a quest to try to uncover what they might be hiding, figure out what their real plan is, and also try to rally the rest of the public into believing them as well, and that's really all I'm going to say. So the Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, I was very excited for this show. And honestly, you might be a little bit surprised because the original movie, the first time I watched it, I wasn't really a fan of it. But then the second time I watched it, I appreciate it more. But I will definitely still maintain the idea that I didn't feel like that film fleshed out the world as well as it could have. It's such a dense world. There's so much, various places to it. There's so much you can do with it. And just a 90-minute movie doesn't really do it justice. So I always thought, like, yeah, having a TV show is a great idea. We'll get to know the world of Thraw more. We'll get to know the Skeksis more and things like that. We'll get to know these characters more. It won't feel as rushed. And because of that, I was very excited to see what they were going to do here, especially like technical wise. I mean, there's so much that has advanced since the 80s, so I knew I was going to be in for something great. And look, I know I did my top 10 most anticipated shows and things like that I was looking forward to. If I had known this was coming out in the summer, this would definitely have cracked the top 10 at least, because I was pretty much blown away by the trailer here, and pretty much after that, I was very much sold on this series being a thing. I already was interested because, like I said, I thought you could flesh the world out more, but that trailer especially made me increasingly excited to see what they could do here. But I have to say, Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance was better than I ever hoped it would be. This is the definition of just a truly epic series that really does expand the possibilities and the parameters of what you can really do on TV, and I think the show just handles that perfectly. It's definitely one of my favorites of the entire year, but we're just getting to right now, starting off with the voice cast. And look, what can I say about this cast? I mean, this is easily one of the most star-studded casts of the entire year, and that's already a huge improvement from the original film. The original film, I wouldn't say the voice actors were bad necessarily, but they were puppeteers. You know, voice acting was not their main strength. That was not the main thing that they do. They hold puppets and things like that, and they voice them. That's really it. We didn't have highly trained ones like we have here, and the whole cast here turns out some amazing work. I mean, Taron Egerton, what a hell of a year this guy is having. I remember when he was doing things like Kingsman and things like that, and I said one day this guy is going to be a star. And, you know, he just did Rocket Man, and now he is one of the leads in this, and he does such a great job as a character of Rien. He's very rootable in that way, but you also do see how he is someone who is very destined to get to the bottom of things. He suffers a very personal tragedy, and I think he just did a really great job here. Anya Taylor-Joy as well is really great as a character of Brea. I definitely really liked her here as well. I think her character is definitely one of the most complex out of all of them, because she's someone who is in fact royal, and she also should be allied with the Skeksis, and you know, we'll get more into that with the writing, but I thought she just did such a great job here, continues to be one of the best young actresses out there right now. But it is Nathalie Emmanuel who I think completely steals this entire series. Look, I really loved her in Game of Thrones and things like that. I thought she always did a really good job there, but here, she blew me away. I loved her as this character of Dietz. Dietz is easily the most interesting of the three, but she also has the most challenging role. She's someone who is very much a free spirit. She always has this can-do attitude, but she also is the first one to learn about the darkening, and you really do see just how destined she is to get to the bottom of this, and hopefully get everyone else on her side and figure out what could possibly be happening here. But she also is very insecure and has low self-esteem issues and things like that, and I think Manuel just really rose to the occasion here. In fact, she's completely unrecognizable in this role. all. I actually thought for the first episode that this was Anya Taylor-Joy's character. That's how good that she was at disguising her voice here. I thought she did such an incredible job in the show. I really hope she continues to get more work after this, because it shows me that her talents have definitely been underutilized. She is far more capable than just playing a small role like Missandei or in Game of Thrones, or the chick she plays in, Fast and Furious. Here, she has a lot more to work with, and these three, they work so well together. They all have such great chemistry. You really do feel the bond between all of them, and I think they did some really great work here for sure. Definitely, like I said, a huge improvement over the original film. But the supporting cast as well, I mean, so many great, talented actors here. Jason Isaacs is great. Mark Hamill is obviously great. He's one of the best voice actors out there. Awkwafina is great. Mark Strachan is fantastic here. Andy Samberg, I thought, was really great. He shows up. Alicia Vikander shows up here. Helena Bonham Carter, I mean, holy shit. She has not given this good of a performance in quite some time, but after this, I'm very excited to see her in The Crown Season 3, because she shows how talented of an actress she really is, and she really does go all out here. I really like seeing Caitriona Balfe in here as well. You know, I usually see her in Outlander, but it was cool to see her do something other than that. Gugu Mbatha-Raw shows up. Donna Kimball as Aughra as well, one of my favorite characters in the original movie, and she has a lot more to do in this show, and I thought she was so great here, especially when it comes to her arc in the show, which I'll get more into in the writing, but I thought Kimball was really great here. But someone else I have to give a standout to is Victor Yerrid as Hup. This little thing is probably one of the most adorable and just lovable companions I've seen in something in a while. He is basically, Deet's best friend in that way. He's a podling, and he doesn't have a lot to do, but he's someone who really cares about Deet, and he's willing to, protect his friends, even if it's with a little spoon. But Yerrid is so good here. He captures this character so well. You really will find yourself loving this character, and I thought he was a really great addition to this show. I thought he brought in a nice ounce of levity that I think we definitely do need in a dark show like this, and I think he did a really great job here. I mean, really everyone does a fantastic job here. However, out of everyone, I have to say, the big standout of this entire show, besides Nathalie Emmanuel, might just be Simon Pegg, who you'll be surprised that he's actually in this series. You won't be able to tell that he's in there. In fact, when I was first watching this, I, got a message from one of my friends, and they said, dude, Simon Pegg's, like, unrecognizable in here. I'm like, yeah, he is. I can't tell who he's playing at all. Simon Pegg plays the Chamberlain in this show. Yes, the Chamberlain that's like, he does that constantly. You would not think that Pegg would be suited for this, but he completely transforms himself into this character. There is not a single second of the show where he even remotely sounds like Simon Pegg. He sounds like the Chamberlain throughout this entire thing. It's some of the most impressive voice acting I've seen in a very long time. I have no idea how he pulled it off as well as he did. I mean, he's fucking Simon Pegg, so I really shouldn't be surprised that this was as good as it was. He is one of our great actors right now for sure. But he just kills it in this role. I absolutely love what he did here. The Chamberlain, he's cunning, he's very devious. He is someone who is very ruthless in that way, and I think he just did such a great job portraying this character. I already really loved the Chamberlain in the original movie, but here, he is even better, and it's mainly just because of how well Pegg embodies the spirit of the Chamberlain here. I think he did some really fantastic work. Really, the entire voice cast, even smaller performances like Bill Hader or, even Sigourney Weaver does the narration in the beginning. Nobody feels out of place. Nobody feels like they're not into this. Everyone feels like they're having the time of their life in this series, and it's definitely one of the best things about the show for sure. It's just how talented this entire cast is. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, because with something like this, a property that is very well respected, it is Jim Henson, of course, you want to make sure it's in the right hands. You want to make sure you have people here that are understanding the property, and that's been a problem with like a lot of revival series lately, is that you just don't have it in the right hands. But here, these guys understand Dark Crystal extremely well. You can tell the respect they really do have for this property and how willing they are to expand upon it. Louis Leterrier, I thought, did a great job directing this series, and I have to say, I'm not really the biggest fan of him. I mean, he's done things like The Incredible Hulk, Clash of the Titans, Now You See Me. I mean, this guy is not that well known in terms of directing, but he does a great job with helming this series. It's similar to Craig Mason. Like, in my last review, you would not think he's this capable, but he really does do a great job of helming this entire thing, capturing that adventurous and, often very dark spirit of the original, and no pun intended, of course, but also adding this fun and this ounce of just joyfulness that this show really does bring, and I think he does a really great job with that. This show is tons of fun. There's so many moments that I was definitely really enjoying. It's also a lot funnier than the original show. There's a lot of comedy in here, which is something that I also wasn't expecting. Whether it's through, like I said, the character of Hupp or this other character known as the Heretic, there's actually a lot of comedy in here, and that's counterbalanced really well with the drama, which when the show wants to get heavy, holy shit, it's like Game of Thrones level. Now, obviously not in terms of like graphicness and things like that, but there's a lot of characters that die in this show. That's not something that I was expecting, but his directing is really great. You really do feel it in those sentimental moments, and it really is due to Leterrier's directing here. It's probably some of the best I've seen all year, to be honest. I think he did a really great job taking what was essentially a dead property that really had a cult following for sure, but you know, I don't think anyone was really clamoring for more Dark Crystal, but he showed that, yeah, there's a lot more you can do here, and I really did love seeing that for sure, and I'm glad, because I always knew there was definitely more you could do there, and I think his directing was really great for sure. Now, the writing, though, that's the most impressive thing to me when it comes to the series, and that was the thing I was also most looking forward to, because easily my biggest problem with the original film is really all in the writing. First of all, I think that the mythology stuff is incredibly rushed. They throw so much at you to the point where it's confusing. You don't know how the rules of the world work and things like that. So here, because it's a TV series, they're really able to take their time and expand the world of Thraw more, so you get a much clearer understanding of what everyone is doing, what everyone's about, and it's really great to see. I think that that was a huge improvement in this show. After the show, I have a much deeper understanding of Thraw, knowing how it works, knowing what the Gelflings do, knowing what the Skeksis are all about, and I think they did a really great job with that. I think by the end of this show, any questions that you had about Thraw most likely will be answered here, and I think they did a really good job with handling that for sure, and I'm not the only one that shares that same criticism. I've heard countless people bring that up, so I think anyone that had that issue with watching the original movie and feeling like they don't really know the ways this world works, watch the show, and I think pretty much from the first episode, you'll be like, okay, this isn't as hard to understand as I thought it was. Like, it's actually a fairly simple premise in that way, and they do a really good job with that. You know, and the different sort of families that we meet up with as well, we get a lot more into, whether it's the Groton clan, or the Stonewood clan, or the Vapor clan. I mean, all three of our characters are from different families, and you really do get to flesh all them out. The Sifa clan as well. I mean, there's many various factions of people that we do meet in this show, but at no point was I confused by what was going on, because again, they really do take their time, and that also goes for the characters, who I have to say in the original movie were not the most impressive, aside from Kira. I do really like the character of Kira, and I liked Aughra in the original film, but Jen was never really that compelling of a character, and it's mainly because, again, it just felt, his stuff just felt so rushed in that way. It was all, you know, all of his, tragedy was pretty much brought up after the fact. Here, they really take their time with getting you to know these three characters, and that's something I really did appreciate. In fact, it's not until the 5th episode when the actual plot of this show starts. The first 4 episodes is really just getting to know all of these characters, the situations they're in, and as a result, they're far more compelling. Take someone like Rian, for example. I thought for sure Rian was going to be really one-dimensional. I was worried at first that's where they were going to take him, but midway through the first episode, he suffers this huge loss, and you just feel so bad for him, and he ends up in this, like, murder conspiracy. I don't want to get into it too much, but there is a terrible loss that happens, and Rian is blamed for it, and he has to, like, try to clear his name and things like that, and it becomes a really interesting arc. I really loved where they ended up going with that character. He wasn't just a one-dimensional hero that we've seen 1,000 times. There was a lot more to him besides that. You know, he's someone who is destined to clear his name, but he's also someone who he has problems at first with getting through to them, and I definitely really did like where he ended up going in this show. I thought he definitely did do a really great job, and again, I really like where his arc ended up going for sure, but it's Brea and Dee. Those are the two characters that I really felt the most connected to, and Brea, especially, as I said, I think out of the three is probably the most complex because she's someone who is of royal stature. She is someone who is very well respected and things like that, but she doesn't really feel like she earns that respect. She always feels like there's something off. You know, her mother is lavishing her with these gifts and things like that, but she's also ignoring a lot of what Brea is worried about. Pretty much from the beginning, Brea senses there's something off with the Skeksis. She doesn't feel that they are as welcoming as they appear to be, which that's another big part of the show. Unlike the movie, they don't know that the Skeksis are evil. They actually think that the Skeksis are someone that they could possibly ally with, that the Skeksis are genuine in wanting to help the Gelflings. But pretty much from the beginning, you know that something's off. You know that there's something not right about the Skeksis. And even if you haven't seen the original movie, I think you can tell from the beginning, like, yeah, something's definitely off here, and you're just kind of waiting for it to happen. So it sounds like that could cause a problem where, because we know it's not nearly as effective, but no, it's actually the opposite, because the fact that we have a story of everyone trying to learn more about the Skeksis, and trying to realize just how dangerous they really are, it actually makes for something far more riveting, and Brea trying to rally everyone I thought was a really good arc for sure, and then contrast that with Deet, someone who, like I said, is a free spirit. She doesn't really have that much of a family. She does have a family, but she very much is out on her own and things like that, and she really wants to get down to that darkening, and eventually when these three characters do converge, you really do see, why these three need to work together. You really do care for all of them, and I thought it was a really great idea the way they went about it, really just taking their time to flesh all of that out, and there's a lot that happens. Like, it's not like it's boring or anything. There's a lot that happens before we get to the initial plot of the show, especially for Rian. Oh my god, he goes through so much in just these first 4 episodes alone. Everyone is just beating on this guy. He loses so much in these first 4 episodes, and it just makes him that much more empathetic as a character, and I think they did some incredible work there, and that's one of the things I really loved about the show that I can't say about the original movie. And the same goes for the Skeksis. They are not just one-dimensional villains here. Yes, they are very evil. Yes, they are ruthless, but in this show, you have more of an idea of why they are that way. What are they really trying to do? What is their initial plan? Why are they so intent on bringing down the Gelflings as they are? You also get a little bit more into their origins and things like that, which is something that I wasn't really expecting. I was expecting for the Skeksis to be pretty one-dimensional, which, I mean, they were threatening in the movie, don't get me wrong. They definitely were quite intimidating, but that's nothing compared to here. The second episode alone, there's a shot at the very end, the second episode, it was very chilling, and again, hats off to them. I love the fact that we have a property here that is supposed to be for families, but covers some really dark material, and that really does go for those Skeksis. In fact, there's a lot of internal conflicts going on there. The Chamberlain himself, I mean, he kind of goes through his own arc. He has some issues with overcoming adversity and things like that, and they do a really great job with getting you to understand the Skeksis, but never trying to rationalize what they're doing, just fleshing them out more so they're more threatening villains in that way, and it was a very smart idea to go about it in the way they did. And again, it seemed like they were trying to get as much mileage out of these characters as possible, and I think they definitely succeeded with that here for sure. But also, even for our supporting characters, I mean, like I said, characters like Hup, for example, is not just the goofy, cute little sidekick that accompanies Deet. No, he himself has some issues, and you see him and Deet, how they bring out the best in each other and things like that, and it's a really nice subplot there. Even characters like, say, Brea's sisters, there's a lot of conflict going on there. Her mother favors Brea over her sisters, pretty much, and they have to take the brunt for a lot of what, Brea does, and they very much, one of them feels very jealous, one of them really does care for Brea in that way, and I think they did a really great job with that for sure. So really, all of these characters, I can't really think of one that I didn't like. I can't think of a character that didn't feel at least somewhat fleshed out. I mean, even smaller characters like the Madra Farah, played by Lena Headey, she even has stuff to do here. And she's not even like a big character, but they still give her a good amount of stuff to do, and I really did appreciate that. And they also do go off of some of the things you saw in the original film. Like Aughra, for example, here she is a little bit more skeptical of, does she actually want to take care of this crystal? She knows the price that she has to pay if she does, and you see the struggles that she's dealing with that, and I think they do a good job with getting you to care about this character a little more. I liked Aughra in the original movie, as I said, but I think here you just have a better understanding of her altogether, and I think they did a great job with that, and that's something I can just say for the entire writing. I mean, just the conflict between the Skeksis and the Gelflings, it's really amped up here. The characters themselves are just so much more interesting. They really do flesh them out tons more. You get a lot more into them, and that's just probably the best thing about the show, is the writing. If it's not the writing, it is absolutely the visuals. Holy shit, this is on another level here. I honestly can't believe that this turned out as well as it did. There are so many ways that this could have been a train wreck, but it looks spectacular throughout. There is not a single frame of this series that doesn't look real. It looks like you could go to Thraw. It looks like you can venture into these amazing looking worlds, and they do such a fantastic job of that. And the puppetry, my god, is it out of this world. And that's something else I know some people did complain about. I didn't really have a complaint with that, but I know some people said that the Gelflings were too lifelike, like they tried to make them look like humans or something like that. Here, they have a far more distinctive look to them, and they really do all stick out in that way. And the Gelflings themselves, there's more details put into them facial-wise, and they do a really great job with it for the most part. And just that, it really just leaps off the screen in that way, and you really do feel like you're there. There are so many epic scenes in the show, and especially the action scenes. I mean, they're far more thrilling here. There are far more places that they go with them. There are so many crazy action set pieces. One in the 4th episode that had my heart absolutely racing, especially where it ended up going. I was not expecting them to go where they did. There's another one in like the penultimate episode that is really great. There's fight scenes throughout this entire show, and they're all really intense, and in no point does it feel fake in that way. And I think it's just really cool to watch a show in 2019 that has no human characters whatsoever. How often does that happen? How often do you watch a live action show that has no human characters? I think that's amazing. I can't believe they were able to pull this off as well as they did. Everything looks so well rendered. Everything looks so well detailed. You can tell the respect they had for the movie, and just the way that they translate that to the modern age in that way, in terms of technology, it really does show how far we've come, and it's definitely one of the best looking Netflix shows I think we've ever had. I think for sure. I mean, there are points where this looks like a movie, and I just can't believe it looked as good as it is, and I can't praise it enough. It's absolutely spellbinding. I loved every single second of it. There are so many scenes that I just got completely sucked into, and they did a fantastic job with it for sure. The visual effects, I mean, just everything is so good when it comes to cinematography in the show. I really have no complaints there at all. Nothing but praise for the cinematography here. The score as well is so good, and I really did love the score in the original movie. You know, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I love that little tune that we get from the original film, and that theme is here, but there's also more of this epic feel to it. Daniel Pemberton really ramped up the tension in that way. He really ramped up the fantasy feel of it all. There are points where it kind of feels like Game of Thrones in that way. Like, it's like a family version of Game of Thrones. Like, this is a Game of Thrones you can watch with your family because there's no, gratuitous, well, not gratuitous, but there's no sex or nudity or over-the-top violence. Like, that's not in the show, but it definitely does have that epic sort of feel to it. And since Game of Thrones is now done, I could see this definitely being one that takes over. I could definitely see this being a great future for how you do the next Game of Thrones. And again, the show's not trying to be the next Game of Thrones. It's trying to be its own thing. But there are points where the score really does stick out in that way, and it's so epic, and I just really loved Pemberton's score here for sure. It's definitely one I'm going to be listening to. Even though I'm done with this series, I'm definitely going to be listening to it for sure, because it definitely just puts me in a really great mood. The editing to the show is also fantastic. I think every episode was paced really well. The 10 episodes, it definitely needed to be. I think they really fleshed it out well, especially, like I said, the decision to not really start the actual plot of the show until the 5th episode, I think was a very wise one, and I think the show, for the most part, never really overstayed its welcome. So yeah, there's just a lot to really love about this show. I would get into spoilers, but I don't really have a ton to say in the realm of spoilers. There is a lot that happens for sure that I could very well talk about, but I've already gone on long enough, I think, about just how much I adore this show. But I will say, there are certain things that happen in the ending, and I went into this thing it was going to be a limited series, but let's just say, hypothetically, this show gets a season 2, I want it. I really do want it. I think the way they leave things off this season, there is so much they can go off of from there. I don't want to get into it too much, but there's a certain revelation that happens. There's a certain direction a character goes in, and I love this idea. I can't wait to see what they do with it, and I hope that they're able to expand upon it. And I know that, like, Louis Leterrier and things like he's talked about how they might try to do a season 2. They have an idea of what season 2 might be, and I would be so down if they were to do it. I know it's a prequel series, but honestly, just the way they were able to expand the possibilities of this world, there's so much that you can do now, and I'm very excited to see if they do a season 2, how they would pull it off, because I think there's definitely a lot to go from. And look, I'm someone who, I always say, like, you know, if you need end it strong, but I feel like this is a show that could very much branch off from this. I feel like there is a lot more you can do, and I'm excited to see if they do get a season 2. I hope that Netflix does give them at least, like, a spin-off or something, because there's still so much you can go off of for sure, and I'm excited to see what they were to do, if they were to continue for sure. Overall, guys, Dark Crystal Age of Resistance just absolutely floored me. I adore pretty much everything about this show. I really only have one small issue with it. I just think every so often, because there is so much going on, there are some characters that feel just a little bit shortchanged. There's one character especially who makes a decision and then conveniently backtracks that decision, and it just didn't feel as natural as it should have to me. But other than that, I adore every single second of the show. This is the epic that you really want to be. If you were disappointed in the original film, this show is for you. I mean, it's for lovers of the original film as well, but if you were disappointed, this show is absolutely for you. It fleshes out the characters more, it fleshes out the world more, it's got an extremely talented voice cast, the visuals are just out of this world, the writing is so on point, it's got a really compelling story to it, you really do see it from all sides here, it really just fleshes out the possibilities of Thrawn. Like I said, moving forward, it really is just a groundbreaking show in all regards, and I can't wait to see if they're able to expand upon it from here. I can't believe this show turned out as well as it did. This show absolutely blew me away. It definitely exceeded my already very high expectations. So with all that said, I'm definitely going to give the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance overall an A. And with that, I have now finally finished my summer TV binge. I know there was a lot of shows to get through. I know you guys have been waiting tirelessly for it. I know definitely you guys probably wanted to see it a little while ago, but hey, I wanted to watch as much as I possibly could, and I knew that I wanted to end with this show, and I knew that I didn't want to make that list until I had finished the show because I thought that it could possibly qualify, and it absolutely will be on there. I'll just tell you guys that right now. But either way, guys, in my review, The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, and most guys saw this show overall, left your thoughts on it. Please see the show if you haven't already. Like I said, even if you're not fans of the original movie, I think the show will be able to convert you and make you a fan of this world overall. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.